Aloha. Aloha. I always wanted to say that. Thank you for that fine introduction, and thank you all for coming. It's really great to be here. I've worked at Intel for quite some time, for 2 decades, and over those 2 decades, I've seen an awful lot of change. I've seen Intel grow to be a $37 billion company with 80,000 employees operating in over 50 countries. But the most fascinating shift, to stick with today's theme, that I have been part of is Intel's shift toward global sustainability. And that includes using our architectures and our transistor technology to have an impact and make a difference in energy and in the environment. So the question is, how did that shift happen? Well, for some history first. Intel's sustainability started around 1994 with a focus on transparency and disclosure, 2 pretty good targets at the time. And that was initiated through some public reporting as a corporation of our environmental impact. This was followed in 1996 with the public reporting of total energy usage, which was pretty progressive at the time. And next in 98, the setting of global sector-wide climate goals. And then in 2000, the company initiated the reporting of Intel's climate footprint. So lots of transparency and disclosure. And that focus on transparency and disclosure shifted in 2003 toward a focus on driving company-wide continuous improvement in sustainability. And that's what we're really here to talk about today. So first was the formulation of global energy conservation goals, and then a global climate footprint goal in 2006, very strong partnerships in 2007, and a commitment to clean energy, the usage of clean energy, in 2008. So today, we're going to talk for a few minutes on 4 specific focused sustainability activities for Intel during this period of company-wide continuous improvement. And those 4 areas are responsibly managing Intel's operations, designing products with the environment in mind, promoting global sustainability, and using technology to solve big environmental and sustainability problems. So first, here we go, responsibly managing operations. So let's talk about that first. So Intel has worked very hard to reduce environmental footprint of our manufacturing facilities. And a typical Intel factory or fab is a multi-billion-dollar building. These are big buildings. And this starts with goals and metrics, of course. So we integrate environmental performance goals into, and designing for the environment into product design, into our process design, and our building design. And our environmental health and safety engineers are some of the busiest people at Intel because they're involved in all phases of all that activity. So let's discuss electricity. So in 2008, Intel agreed to purchase 1.3 billion kilowatt hours a year of clean energy. And there's a saying at Intel that a billion of anything is a lot. Okay? So this, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, will satisfy about 46% of Intel's total energy usage as a corporation. And this makes Intel the top user, top corporate purchaser of clean energy in the United States. Also in 2008, Intel instituted some pilot solar projects. So right now in Bangalore, India, all water is heated through solar energy. In Oregon, there's a 100 kilowatt electric PV system that's presently in pilot phase. And there are several other locations globally also using solar energy for electricity. So of course, the flip side to generating power is conserving power, or just not using it in the first place. So since 2001, Intel has invested about $25 million for over 250 projects that have saved $50 million while also saving 500 million kilowatt hours of electricity. Now, just to scope that, that's enough to power about 500,000 homes for a year. So not a bad trade-off. Spend 23 million, save 50 million, while saving 500 kilowatt hours of energy. Intel's publicly stated energy goal is to reduce energy consumption on a per chip basis. And for those of you who have never seen a chip, that's actually about a 7 or 8 year old chip. They're a lot smaller now. On a per chip basis, which is also a great way to measure things, per unit manufactured basis, 5% a year from 2007 to 2012. So after electricity, let's talk briefly about water, something vital to Hawaii as well as to Intel factories. So water is a multi-year success story at Intel. Over the past 10 years, the company has invested over $100 million to conserve water. And together, through these best practices, as well as by working with suppliers who also use best practices in water conservation, Intel estimates that in that 10-year period, we've saved about 34 billion, again, there's that big word again, billion gallons of water, about 3 billion gallons of water a year. So a pretty big accomplishment. And last, of course, air. We have to talk about air. So through the end of 2008, Intel has reduced global warming emissions by 40% below 2004 levels, and again, on a per chip basis. And I have to plug the products at some point. And reduced PFC emissions per fluorocarbons for the 8th consecutive year, which is achieving a reduction of 80% over 1995 baseline. Pretty significant accomplishment. So the second focus area, designing products with the environment in mind. So in 2006, Intel launched a new microarchitecture called the Core microarchitecture. So just comparing 2005 to 2009 for servers which sit in data centers, and by the way, the Core architecture is in most of your desktops and notebooks that are in your computer bags, but just looking at servers, 2005 to 2009, a customer who's purchased an Intel-based server has saved about 18% of their energy on that server while getting a 9x performance increase. Not a bad trade-off in 4 years. So what does that mean for global power savings? Well, from 2006 to 2008, as data centers replaced old computers with new computers based on the Core architecture, Intel estimates a total global savings of 20 terawatt hours of electricity. That's equal to about $2 billion in global savings of expense on electricity. And it averted about 15 million tons of energy-related CO2 emissions. So that's equivalent to taking 3 million cars off the road or just not building 3 to 5 coal-fired power plants. A pretty big accomplishment. So another big shift in designing products for the environment in mind is the implementation of lead-free technology in our manufacturing and halogen-free technology in packaging. Now the problems with lead and halogen is they've been used in the electronics industry, not just by Intel, but very broadly for decades. And when not recycled properly, they can be quite damaging to the environment. So working closely over many years with partners and competitors and others, leaders in the industry, I'm proud to say now that Intel has implemented this technology in our factories. So here's what can happen when designing products with the environment in mind, specifically water conservation in manufacturing. So the EPA, the United States EPA, not Intel, estimates that it takes less than 10 gallons of water to make a chip. Now that may sound like a lot of water, but let's compare it with some other things. The same EPA study estimates that it takes 1,800 gallons of water to make a pair of jeans, and I noticed several of you are wearing jeans today, 120 gallons of water to make an egg, and 65 gallons of water to make a gallon of milk. So looking back on your breakfast this morning, you can size up your water impact. It's a lot of water. So the third area that we're going to talk about is, here we go, promoting global sustainability. So at Intel, promoting global sustainability comes both tops down from executives as well as bottoms up from employees. It starts with the employee code of conduct, that document that guides our performance and our conduct every day, which states very clearly, calls out respect for the environment as part of Intel's decision-making process. So we need to think about it when we make decisions. And since 2008, a portion of every employee's variable compensation, including mine, is tied to Intel's environmental performance in products, energy usage, and environmental reputation. So your opinion of Intel's reputation in the environment makes a difference on my pay. And you can imagine that when you tie environmental performance to employee pay, employees pay attention. So employees are also encouraged to participate in the Intel Employee Sustainability Network, as well as impact environmental issues in their local site, because Intel is such a global company. So here are a couple of my favorite examples. So Intel volunteers, together with the World Wildlife Fund in Malaysia, donated 22 hours of their time to a local green turtle sanctuary in an effort to study the migratory patterns, feeding patterns, and save the green turtle. 85 volunteers in Intel Vietnam planted 500 trees in the Vinh Cue National Nature Reserve and the Cat Tien National Park, trying to sustain the biodiversity of that area and prevent water runoff. And here's a fun fact. It's estimated that in the next few years, 700 million computers will become obsolete, and yet only 10% of them will be properly recycled. So Intel has hosted or sponsored in 2008 9 community events to recycle technology, computer equipment, electronics equipment, collecting 1.5 million pounds of used electronics and recycling them appropriately. And that effort continues through 2009. And last but not least, something close to my heart, for 10 weeks this year in 7 US locations, including mine, employees were encouraged to bring a ceramic coffee cup in the morning rather than using paper cups, something which you can all do in your offices. And in that 10-week period, the consumption of paper cups in cafeterias was reduced by 58%. A simple employee request with a very big impact. So promoting global sustainability at Intel also means working with government agencies and partners worldwide to craft environmental policy that helps to impact the environment in a positive way while continuing to allow Intel to innovate and compete. And I have a few examples of that also. So Intel worked with the US EPA to develop the new Energy Star standards, Energy Star 4.0, and wrote a manual for computer manufacturers to help them develop Energy Star 4.0 compliant systems. Intel has been a leading participant in the development of EPEAT, which is the Electronic Product Environmental Assessment Tool, which promotes clear criterion for evaluating the sustainability and environmental friendliness of electronic products. And something also that very near to my heart that I was involved in at the time because I managed Intel's activities with Google. In 2007, Intel launched, together with Google and the World Wildlife Fund, the Climate Savers Computing Initiative. And the goal of Climate Savers was to reduce the power consumption of tomorrow's computers while encouraging corporations to implement the power savings features which already exist on the computers that they have in their offices. Now, to scope the opportunity, 2 data points. Okay, first of all, the electronics and telecommunications industries account for about 2% overall of global CO2 emissions. So if Intel can come up with a program that impacts that 2%, it's a great way of impacting CO2 emissions. The second one is, according to Forrester Research, today, there are 1 billion PCs in use. By 2015, 6 years from now, that 1 billion will become 2.25 billion PCs. So impacting power savings features on computers today can have a huge impact. So up to now, about 400 corporations globally are signed up with Climate Savers. So the next topic, the last of the 4 shifts, is using technology to solve big issues, big environmental issues. Significant environmental benefits are realized when Intel microprocessors and Intel technology are applied at a global level to solving these problems. Intel is joining forces with industry, with business and governments to find ways that technology can be of benefit. And this goes everything from conserving energy to reducing carbon emissions to making sure hazardous materials are disposed of properly. to managing power distribution, smart grid, to using video conferencing instead of travel, and to using technology to remotely manage and fix PCs. So you don't have to have someone get in their car and use gasoline and drive next to your desk and sit in your chair and fix your computer. So in conclusion, as a result of these efforts and many more, Intel has garnered significant and I think well-deserved recognition as a leader in environmental sustainability. So a couple examples. 2 months ago, Newsweek magazine awarded Intel the #4 ranking for green rankings of America's 500 largest companies. Intel was awarded the 2008 California Clean Air Award for outstanding leadership in global climate change. This past January, Corporate Knights and Innovest named Intel one of the most sustainable corporations in the world for the 5th year in a row. And Intel has been included in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for 10 years since the index was established. So looking forward, Intel will continue its commitment to sustainability with respect to our operations, our products, our initiatives, and the use of our technology to solve big problems. Employees continue to ask, what can I do? How can I help? There's a grassroots effort in sustainability at the employee level. Employees are excited, and it is my hope that in this brief discussion today about Intel's long-term commitment, it's been a long road, long-term commitment to sustainability, that it will help you today at TEDx to discover new ways you can help your departments, your agencies, and your companies also shift towards sustainability. Thank you very much.